Secrecy is the invention. So 6B question. I will have to start the structure. So we can start an introduction. Right? Let's quote of AIR. So let's say that. Second, we can start or any other quote. So transparency is, this is how RTI is considered era of let's say light, beginning of light and ending there of darkness. That we can see this. Then we can write about this. Was secrecy, right? So how secrecy is already we have asked in one question. We have tried to ask RTI in secrecy context. So secrecy is, this is how, let's say, it is related to maintaining, hiding information, knowledge, etc. Let's say define it, then relate to bureaucracy, right? How even official secret act, this promotes secrecy culture. And this is how Max Weber says it is invention. It is invention. So related case secrecy is invention of bureaucracy. This. Then you can talk about transparency and relate the transparency with democracy. This is how it is, let's say, human right, it is related to fundamental right. This way. Then you can say the transparency culture, whether it is able to. Transparency culture, are we able to, let's relate to some examples. See how the, let's say, transparency culture has come. Then let's say that then question says about this critically analyze effects of RTI. So this is how effects. So this is how called effects of RTI. And then let's say that you write some criticisms. Some criticisms. Conclude. It's about transparency culture. This largely it is an applied answer. This is how you should write. See, read your model answer. By that you can write on this question. This largely we should say that yes, we have been trying to promote and transparency has been promoted, but still you know that there are so many problems related to transparency, and this is how we have to overcome on them. This way you should have tried. This is what you should have written. And then let's say that you will try to finish on this theory section. As far as case studies are concerned, so we will go by the model answer and we'll explain you already so many things we have talked. So just I will give some emphasis to what you should have written, where you should have written. This way, because already we have 5 test discussions in which whatever the strategies that we have to tell, how you should solve case studies, everything or almost everything we have told. Now you have to just practice them, execute them, and learn that how you can also plan and prioritize these things. And that is how you should also write in that way, learn from them. So if you take, let's say that first case study. So we have tried to ask a case study based on different, let's say that subject matter. So subject matter, basically if you say it is related to sports, first it is related to sports, then it is related to this problem, structural problem, procedural problem, behavioral problem. These are the 3 problems, you know that. So that is how the dimensions, you can take it as an introduction. And we're writing, so you can take, and let's say that it can be considered as an introduction. So it can be taken as an introduction. So you can start like this also. This can work as an introduction, dimensions, let's say that, structural, procedural, behavioral, and ultimately it is related to sports ethics. And then these are the ethical issues now. So by this time, you will be able to, let's say, Right. So you'll be able to, by this time we can say this, means you can write it as an introduction, this, and it can be an introduction. Yes. They should write it as an introduction, and then these are the, let's say, that ethical values. So ethical values are related to lack of sports ethics, you can say. It is related to sports ethics. Sports ethics are related to fairness, responsibility, merit, that kind of things you can say. It is fiduciary responsibility. Those who are holding their position, they should play their fiduciary responsibility role. Conflict of interest, we can say this. So conflict of interest is involved this. Then there is also problem of, you'll find this, there is problem of lack of gender justice within. One point should be transparency, and that point integrity problem, nexus corruption. So these are some of the ethical issues that you can write. Then it can be, let's say, structured, legal. Basically, problem is that all the sports institutions are run by very old laws and rules which are no longer relevant today. All laws where we are trying to change Indian Penal Code, even we are trying to change, we have changed even, let's say, try to change Land Acquisition Companies Act, but let's say still Society Registration Act, which is very old law, right? It is not being changed, and that's why they are run as per those Society Registration Acts, Trust Acts. So this is how legal. First thing is that legal, because legal will decide structural, procedural, and other such mechanisms. Like say Companies Act we have created. So Companies Act goes on defining chairman, CEO, board of directors, independent directors, financial disclosures. Similarly, when we change the law, when law is changed, that change in law will result into defining board of directors, means governing body, chairman, vice chairman, member, qualification, everything will be defined as per the present perspective. Whether as per that law they should come under RTI, they should not come under RTI. So it is the law which becomes the origin, which is the fundamental problem of a sporting institution that we have to, because they are created, registered under very old and outdated Society Registration Act. And then institutional, let's say this is how it has been also recommended by IAS second in unlocking social capital. Then institutional, let's say structural sports body, this is how it will result into. Even Madras High Court has also given this judgment that let's all moving, let's say that sports persons should run, and this is what it will result. So 75% of the members of the sports bodies should be from sports, let's say including president, vice president, secretary, all these things. So that way you can write. Then procedural aspect, this is how we have to bring change. Like say how the procedural things have been brought, changes related to civil society organization under Foreign Contribution Regulation Act by the present government. So we need to also focus on those procedural things, including maintaining portal, etc., as website. Those things will help in bringing, let's say that. Then selection committee, let's say that. RM Lodha panel recommended about selection committee, composition of selection committee, and they should also display this, disclose it, the sports persons selected on the basis of merit, the sports persons who were also under consideration but they were not selected. So those things should also be made. It is more and more disclosure, we can say, greater transparency. Then grievance redressal for the sports persons, those who have grievance, within that there should be a grievance redressal mechanism, and it can be national, state level portal should be there, whether they can seek their grievance redressal. At the same time, let's see, for women also we should have grievance redressal, and let's say ICC making it more independent. The way Sri portal has been created by this. Then transparency, accountability, this is how it is. RM Lodha panel, National Sports Development Bill. So all these, Supreme Court, RM Lodha panel, National Sports Development Bill, we have 2014, all they give emphasis on bringing greater transparency and accountability for the let's say functioning of these bodies, and then code of ethics has become an important, including ethics commissioner. So it has been recommended all the other sports authorities, if you talk in other countries, Olympic Association, athletic institution, football association, all they have adopted code of ethics. They have been giving more and more emphasis on ethical conduct, fairness, objectivity, transparency. So we need to also change. That is how we have tried to refer some of the recent developments related. It's the Mudgal Panel, National Sports Development Bill, our Supreme Court declaring BCCI functions as public function, means they have to behave in a responsible fashion. They are the non-profit institutions, but any institution today should have minimum standard. That is how we say there should be minimum standard of transparency and accountability. We cannot say that this institution is this institution is this, hence it should not be subject to such kind of accountability and transparency. Rather, it has become the minimum standard for any organization to run effectively nowadays. And that is how, let's say, that we need to understand, we need to focus. And that is how it should be done in these cases today. Then now we have to see this. We have asked a case study related to bulldozer and demolition and all these things happening. Since it has been happening, it has become one of the important developments nowadays. So that's why we have given one. Last year also we gave one case study. This year we have tried to modify the case study a bit. Now in this bulldozer, let's say when we have means bulldozer justice, or when we're trying to demolish the houses of people. So in this, let's say there are ethical mapping when we are using. So what are the things involved? So basically it's a freedom, liberty, property. That is how people on the one hand, natural rights, it's natural justice, due process of law, rule of law. These are the things. Let's say on the other hand, let's say states should be compassionate towards citizens. States should not behave in aggression when citizens have aggression. Should a state respond in terms of aggression if citizens have aggression? This is how we have to see, as it is becoming the new norm, you can say. And then similarly, at the same time, we have to maintain stability, order and security in the society. And citizens should also play a dutiful role. They should behave in a dutiful manner. So these are all, let's say, that things that we have tried to bring, plus some specific thing, let's say, prevention of damage to public property act is there. So those who damage public property act, according to that law, the damage can be claimed. And then there is also procedural law like municipal act. Every state can have a municipal act. As per the municipal act or municipal rules, let's say, basically encroachments, etc. are removed and demolished. And under that, basically, you can have 5 days to 15 days, 1 month notice is given as per those municipal rules. So they can be considered as legal aspect. This is how ethical mapping should guide. Now, if you talk about as per as called, what are ethical issues in that? The first thing we have written in terms of state aggression against public aggression. See, people may have anguish, people may have grievance, people may be not in their wisdom, senses, and therefore state should not behave like citizen. If people become like mob type, should state also behave as that mobocracy type? So then the difference between, we'll find that citizen and state is, let's say, that removed. Hardly, let's say, both can be considered as different. And that is how, let's say, aggression should not be, because aggression by state brings a very larger issue, because tomorrow people will also become aggressive, because they will take this lesson, inspiration from the state. And if a state is trying to punish people by taking law into its own hand, people will also start taking law into their own hand by learning from the state. That is its repercussion, you can say. That can be a serious repercussion in future. And that is how aggression should not be responded by aggression. That is one ethical issue. Then violation of natural justice principle. People are being, let's say, houses are being demolished without getting properly informed. This you can say due process. It has been found with several, let's say, courts, etc. They have found that how due process of law is not, let's say, that followed. And disproportionality, collective punishment, all these things will find. In fact, we have started with one statement, a statement of, let's say, Haryana High Court. And if you see the Haryana High Courts, what it went on saying, it says that this procedure established by law is not followed, and it says this is how an exercise of ethnic cleansing. Is it an exercise of ethnic cleansing? Let's say that. And that is how we'll find that it has been, eyebrows have been raised on this. So this can be considered as some ethical, let's say that issues. Then ethical dilemma, what you as a, let's say, what you will face as an ethical dilemma. Ethical dilemma would be that would you act as per the order of the government, or you should apply your own conscience and act as per the rule of law, what the law says. Second, that whether, let's say that you'll go for harshly punishing people by seeking, let's say, damage claim, or a soft approach can be adopted as you can consider. Then you know that if actions are not taken, so then people consider state as weak, and when actions are taken, people consider it as strong. Let's say you as an administrator will have the dilemma that would you also act in the manner, the way, let's say that aggression let's say should be responded by aggression to contain, or we should follow action in such a way that it is not considered as a retaliation by state in response to the rights people have exercised in terms of protest, etc. Yes, certainly when they have damaged the property and etc. So it cannot be condoned, but whether your action is going to be presumed by people as a retaliation action or it is a remedial action. So that way we can consider this is how, so that's knowing and understanding, you should know that, learn from this what should be done, and then ensure law and order, demolition of drive and encroachment, ensure this. Then action stage, so 2 action stages should be, let's for damage claim, property, because there are 2 things, one related to property, another related to writing activities, you can find it, removal of encroachments, etc. So for that we have written this. We have given one example also, Rahul Dhote, let's say IAS in Madhya Pradesh, convinced people to remove their encroachment themselves. So that can be. Then Supreme Court judgment also, already we have case studies in past, this should write it. Then compassion and alternative livelihood, this is what. Then justification, in justification we have tried to write, let's say that this dealt, right, it should be, but at the same time we have given ultimate emphasis, let's say. You should give emphasis towards this, even if you are supposed to, but you should give emphasis that we should follow more compassion, we should follow more forgiveness type. Although law has to be enforced, but an ideal state is one which should, let's say, have more forgiveness, compassion. That way we will win heart and mind of people. And in long run, we will be able to establish peace. You can imagine that how insurgency and other things, and still we struggle. And every time when we go for using force, we think that we are going to maintain peace and harmony. Peace has been maintained. Ours is a country, you know that it has become over 7 decades, but internal problems we have not solved. This we have to understand that why we have not been able to solve our internal problems. And every time we claim that we have solved it, now there is peace and harmony, it has reduced, but then let's say next day it pop up somewhere, let's say this and that way, like say even in Manipur we were thinking that in northeast things are going fine, peace process is also going fine, but you know that there is a sudden eruption of such kind of violence. So unless we address the anguish of the people, the deep anguish people have, the grievance people have, the problems that people have, we think that yes, aggression will result into teaching them lesson, and for in immediate run it is containing, let's say, such kind of activities. But is it, let's say, that in long run also going to give peace? And that is how states should be concerned. Although you as a district magistrate are supposed to act as per the rule of law, given situation, in given situation, since the state has also a policy that the state wants that there should be a demolition, You as an administrator may not have a choice to refuse, but what can be done is we have to execute the law, and that law should be executed in such a fashion that people are not, let's say, that left with no option. The way encroachments are removed, similar, let's say, pattern should be also followed here, as we told in Tughlaqabad case. And this is how people can be given alternative, etc. Arrangements should be made. We have mentioned in the case study to have some alternative arrangements for them, so that they are after all our own people. So we can bring some, let's say, philanthropic individuals, we can bring civil society organization members in case of removal of encroachments. Certainly, encroachment should not be removed the way it has happened in No. Because after all, when we say they are our own people, the only crime they have done is they have constructed their houses illegally. Does it mean that they lose also their human rights and natural rights? Certainly not. Their houses can be demolished if they are illegal and encroachment has been done. But there cannot be collective punishment that will be inhuman, and certainly it will not go as per rule of law. That is how we should give emphasis when you are writing such kind of cases today. Then it is related to one, let's say, plans, etc., action, corruption, all these things. So happening basically POSCO related, Vedant related in that area. So we have framed the case study related to that. You see different already similar line of case studies we have given. You can see first it will be related to land acquisition, second it will be related to corruption, third it will be related to compensation. These are the, let's say, the three such major aspects. People are protesting, then what you should do as an administrator, and that is how you should see that we have given for, let's say, Protection of Forest Act, Land Acquisition Act, this you can consider. Then integrity, transparency, accountability, the values, right to life, property, this we have done. So this is, I think it is Protection of Environment Act, not Forest Act. Protection of Environment Act, let's say that. Then corruption you can talk, and then ethical issues, lack of compensation, rehabilitation, unsustainable practice, violation of public trust, social unrest. Options, let's say the most appropriate option should be that you initiate intervention. Let's say initiate intervention to take legal action against corrupt, proceed for rehabilitation and compensation, may recommend to government for review of the list. So that can be basically first option is the most appropriate. Then you can talk pros and cons, read yourself the pros and cons given, and then it is, let's say that this is how most appropriate option is this. Why it is, it addresses all the three components in the case study, and because of that, this is how it has been taken. Then we have given some examples also, Puja Singhal, etc. Then towards end also some examples have been given that how in past West Bengal nano land acquisition case, let's say it was cancelled because it was not a public purpose. Basically, let's say this is the last line. If you see what we have written, is people must be stakeholder in the development process and not merely a passive recipient of compensation. The people, let's say, unless we make people a stakeholder in the process rather than just a passive recipient of the benefits, we will not be able to address such issues with, let's say, that effectively. Then let's say 10th case study related to engineer. Yes, this is the case study related to recently the parliamentary panel has given a report. So we have given some values: right to freedom of profession, liberty, human resource development, right to utilization, this, etc. The question is that if we have to give a view, it is non-issue that engineers and doctors who are, let's say, applying in civil services, so should they be, let's say, restricted? Can we restrict them at all? That is how, let's say, it is about voluntarism versus patriotism. Voluntarism is that citizens have their voluntariness. We may not interfere in them. But then patriotism may demand that we can have certain regulation of their career options. Then freedom of choice, let's say, it is democracy, people have freedom of choice. But then the question is also return on investment. We invest in them such huge, so should we have, let's say, that return on that. This freedom of choice versus right utilization also. State is concerned about right utilization, public services spirit versus professional contribution. When they will work in their field, it is professional contribution, but we have a public service spirit, and when they join public service, we appreciate them that yes, they are coming in public service and they do not have money motive. So this kind of thing, let's say talk need for expertise, we have then return on investment. In fact, when they are coming, they are engineers and doctors, so somehow it is helping also civil services to become expert oriented, solve the problem of lack of expertise, as we have also lateral entry. But on the other hand, we want that immediate returns. We do not want that they should work in this brain drain and brain gain, let's say that this. So should we consider in today's environment it is a brain drain? That is how we have given this. Will it be brain drain? We cannot consider it as a brain drain, because let's say it results into return. This read it, we have given example now how nowadays we feel proud of our own people working in the Western countries, even coming back to our country. Then it is a is it a loss of resource? So we have given an elaborate aspect of example, and we have told that it is not a loss of resource, because ultimately, let's say resource beat IAS is also like an entrepreneur, a leader, and IAS also contributes a lot. We have given example how RBI governor was ex-IAS, but at the same time IITian. Raghuram Rajan, who is an academic economist, but he is also an IITian. But two IITians, but joining two different fields. And even one, let's say, has become economist. One has become economist, not necessarily he has become, let's say, that engineer. So can we stop people, those who are not joining, let's say, civil services? The engineers will remain only engineers, but they also do engineering plus MBA and they contribute to the corporate sector. So the logic seems to be, let's say, that it is very difficult, it is not. Rather, they generate resource. We have given Arvind Kejriwal example also. Others, let's say that you can see that. So it is not considered, let's say, Subbarao example we have given. Can we consider it in today's context? It is loss of resource, not necessarily. Then the question is that what should be done? Remedies we have written: attract if an ample opportunity, you need to provide elsewhere. This should be done. Then unlocking growth potential in technical domains. Basically in technical areas, etc., whatever we have, they have not been properly cared, they have not been properly developed, and let's say there is career option is very limited in those areas. So that's why ecosystem we have not created so that people are more attracted towards those sectors rather than towards civil services. And then let's say that decentralization. Basically ours is the country still it is feudal, patriarchal, parochial, in which you should know that still we like government job, we like job security. So when we have the culture of job security, let's say that this public sector, and let's say it is also IAS, that kind of culture. It's not only about IAS, rather that people still like to work in the government sector just for job security. So unless we bring changes, let's say in such kind of thing, plus let's say that it is about not only respecting one job at the cost of all other jobs, so it will not bring benefit and development. It is true. So we need to bring change, we need to respect all other jobs, we need to bring exposure, we need to, let's say, brainstorm, we need to go for role modeling, that kind of things. Children should be exposed to, so let's say, all different job options, and all other job options should also be made equally attractive in terms of promotion, in terms of salary, in terms of, let's say, career options. That demands lots of planning, rather than, let's say, simply, let's say, saying that engineers and doctors are coming. That's also how much and how many percentage of them are coming and what options they are left. This we have to understand, and therefore, let's say, this debate, rather government should focus. Already government has taken lots of steps, let's say, to create and give, let's say, that give preference to other sectors. Labor code it has brought, entrepreneurial, it has created a ministry, let's say, skill development, entrepreneurship, partnership with, let's say, that industry, PPP, etc. So yes, government has also started doing it. It is trying to promote startup, entrepreneurship, and because of that, let's say, government will be able to, we will be able to expose people. We think in that Western countries, do they have restrictions that some people should not, this category? This category of people should not join civil services. Rather, the people are themselves exposed to different jobs and career options, and all career options are considered equally attractive, suppose. So that is how people will try to have other options rather than coming to civil services, and that should be the basis, and that is how you should write in this. Then layoff related, let's say, layoff related case study we have given nowadays. Corporate sector, so it is New Companies Act, corporate governance, CSR, companies versus efficiency, let's say this is a compassion versus efficiency, transparency, natural justice. So when there is any layoff practice, let's say, so what should be layoff, and that has been done the way layoff is being done first, erratically layoff is being done. People are not informed, Twitter incident, how layoff happened. So in that case, let's see, there can be some important aspect can be in Indian context, Companies Act, it can be one, natural right, natural justice can be another, that is right to be informed, let's say, then compassion, leadership, efficiency, competitiveness, all these things at the same time, let's say, we have to have good, let's say, that corporate ethics. These things have been mentioned in ethical mapping, and then that is how, let's say, it will have lack of natural justice, arbitrary, erratic action, you can say, against ethical leadership, efficiency versus compassion, you can say, plus other things you have written, let's say that you should read yourself. Options, let's say, most appropriate option will be that you as a corporate leader should try all other options, and layoff should be taken as a last resort. What should be the other options, let's say? So other options, if you see, we have written other options can be like this: job sharing can be, work part-time can be, work on seasonal basis, right? Approve leave without pay, let's say that approved leave without pay, let's say, pay for a specific time period, voluntary layoff, let's say. People should be asked themselves to, let's say, themselves they should leave, that can be also option. Voluntary demotion in lieu of layoff, appointment to a lower class in order. These are the orders, basically, you can say that. These are other practices that we have identified, let's say, in this practice, and that is how it can be taken, and let's say exploring other options, and that is how it can be given as justification when we see this, and that is how you should try to read yourself, learn yourself. That we have given some example, compassionate capitalism, already we were teaching. We can bring compassionate capitalism. Immediate layoff without information is not ethical, it is not as per corporate governance, it is unethical, and it is erratic practice. It should not be practiced even by Elon Musk. That behavior is not a good show of leadership. It breaches the trust between employer and employee. This, on the one hand, we were saying that integrity should be adhered by people, so organizations should also adhere to integrity. This, if they do not want moonlight, so here also they should not, let's say that move people without light. This we can consider. And then 12th, it is related to, let's say, community child marriage, and basically it is a case study related to child marriage practices in tribal areas, and people, let's say, that are not aware about Pakso law and other such laws, child marriage, they fall in love, then they marry themselves, then they go for marriage registration, and when they go for marriage registration, their police finds they are underage, and when they are underage, so then that the police tries to, let's say, file cases against them. They try to, let's say, do all those type of practices, that misuse of powers, so that they can exploit them, those who are vulnerable section. And then you are, let's say, an SP, so what you should do in that area. So this is how superintendent, what are the options, how level, etc. is the most appropriate option we have given. This is how dimensions we have written. So all these, let's say, there are 4 major types of problems, you can say. Underage marriage, tribal area, lack of awareness, this will false case by police. These are the 4 areas we have to work, and the best option should be taken as enforcing the law, simultaneously showing compassion by undertaking socio-economic interventions. You know that the main problem is not that people are trying to violate law by knowingly, deliberately. They do not know all these things. They are backward people, socio-economically backward. So ultimate solution lie with bringing development in that area. When we will bring development in that area, even if they are tribal people, development, education, advancement, all these things will bring greater awareness, and they will themselves be aware. They will not resort to that kind of underage marriage. Even if, let's say, Supreme Court has allowed, let's say, marriage between boy and girl if they are adult, even if they are not of that age, 18 and 21. But that can also be taken into consideration. Therefore, ultimate focus you as, let's say, SP of that area to focus on bringing development. Although, yes, when there are cases filed, those cases will be expedited. This can be done. Identify whether there are any false case. The false cases should be dealt separately, and they will try to proceed to take action against the police. That should be done. And let's say people should be educated about the marriage age, other such things, so that such problems do not happen. That is how the approach should be taken in this case study. Further details you read. So that is how we can talk related to the case studies. So then dilemma. So what dilemma you will face? It will be duty, responsibility. This we have written. You can read yourself all these things. Now we hope that you may not be facing problems related to ethical issues, ethical dilemma writing. You are able to identify the ethical dilemmas. You are able to write ethical issues. We are able to, let's say, your answers may be close to the, let's say, model answer, not exactly that way, but then you should compare that whether your answers are becoming close to, you are having some of the things in your answer which we mentioned in our model answer, especially related to some conceptual aspects, some examples, some philosophies. That way you can, let's say, also evaluate that whether you are able to write good quality of answer, whether you are improving it.